Thank you. Where did you put those two paintings? Can you get them for me? Thank you. So thank you all so much for giving me the opportunity to go into solitary retreat. I was not alone. I had three main teachers during my retreat, and a cast of, well, if not thousands, a cast of hundreds. So I chose and you could just sit them right here. Thank you. This way. Next slide. So I chose the rustic cabin that's generally unoccupied 99% of the time. Thinking I have like my own little cave experience. And I'm having a little problem seeing. No, can you just bring your chair right over, right here? Just slide it to the middle and I can see. I like to be able to see everybody. Yeah. Okay, great. We're good.
Can you see mine?
Yes, I can. And if you move that table over or you slide out a little bit, I just want to see everybody. Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. It's just it's so few of us, that at least we should be able to make eye contact, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So I chose that one. Harmony chose the tent. That was like too rustic for me, and Hollywood chose the. It was really to give. She's an actress and she's like dainty, and so it was to give her the house so that we were not together in any kind of way. And but next time, I will stay in the house. So I had. It was wonderful. The cabin is small. It's about 8 by 10. When you say 8 by 12 at the most, maybe 8 by 12. And so it's a very small area. You're not allowed to leave the cabin except the cabin and the tent, you don't have a bathroom, so you have a bucket, and you have to, go ahead and take care of your chores in the morning. And other than that, you're not allowed to leave. Your food is brought to your door, and your walking meditation is done within the cabin. Buddha master said you don't need any more than 8 feet circular to do your walking meditation. Otherwise, the rest is getting lost in sights and sounds and smells and scents. And you think you're in meditation, but you're lost in sights and sounds and smells and scents. I agree with him on that. That's why I like nature is good to me to glance at, but then I'm done with it. And all the things that come with it. That's one attachment I don't have. And so I got settled in for my day. I'm all excited because I was really looking forward to this time and wanting it and needing it. And I did the last little bit. They had done most of the housekeeping and setting it up, and I was just doing the finishing touches. And the place is nice. All the cobwebs are gone. There's nobody has been in it since the last time we were there, whatever, 5 months ago or something. I don't know. Did you stay in the cabin? Okay. One night. Okay. So that's it. And I've got my altar set up. I'm very ambitious. I don't do the water bowl offerings and the visualizations. That one just doesn't resonate that much with me. So better to spend more time doing the things, the particular practices, utilizing the particular methods that resonate with you. And if those are the ones that's going to take you where you want to go. If not, you have to break into some new way of move to that seat. Thanks. Great. Some new way, and you can slide him back so you can see he's content. If you want to develop a way to go deeper into particular states, then you might have to take up and get acquainted with those practices. And it's the same thing as learning anything. In the beginning, you don't feel anything from it. You don't have an affinity with it. But as you start to get into a rhythm of something, then one's not using, your brain power to try to learn something or flow with it. You get into the rhythm of it and it becomes automatic for you. And then that's when something happens, and then you just find yourself taking off. It's like an automatic increase or uptick in measure as one becomes one with whatever they're taking up and engaging in. Just like in any relationship, it takes time to build, and for that affinity to be there, the comfort, for the delight, it grows. And so this is kind of like that. So I was ambitious. I was going to do 100 water bowl offerings 3 times a day, because we're supposed to do, as part of the Ngondro practices, the preliminary practices of body, speech, and mind, we're supposed to do 100,000, before they would make, in the old days, old days, they would, when mostly the aristocracy would come for the higher spiritual teachers. The common people didn't get them. And the Dharma kings and the great spiritual teachers would make them do all of these arduous practices to be able to get them. And mostly those aristocrats and those kings and so forth died before they finished doing all those practices. So they never gave them to them, So there's a bit of that going on with this, but the other is to really help develop affinity for certain practices, and also so that one's mind stream can enter into a certain flow, a certain way of seeing, knowing, and understanding things. So we're supposed to do 100,000 water bowl offerings, right? And I said, well, I'm like way behind on that one. So I'll do 100 3 times a day. So the first day I did 100, not 300, but I did 100. And I felt good about that after the effort it took to do 100. The second day I did 5. The third day I did none. The fourth day I did none. The fifth day I did none. 3, 5, 5, 5. The sixth day I did none. And the seventh day I did none. But I said, so I was overly ambitious on that. Okay, I get it. Then we were also supposed to do 100,000. We're supposed to do 100,000 of the achievement mantra. That's the one we say when we first get up in the morning about our giving a blessing over our activities for the day. You don't have that mantra yet. I'm going to give you all that mantra. Um, and but on retreat, you're supposed to do 100, at least 100 a day, but preferably 100 3 times a day. And you do it in a bagua kind of motion and walking in a circle. So first day I did 108. I did my 108. That's the minimum. I did that. Second day, 108. Third day, 108. Fourth day, I think I missed. Fifth, missed. Sixth day, I did 108. And the last day, I did 108. So, I'm just ticking off my list of accomplishments, right? I'm feeling pretty good about some of them. 100,000 prostrations, right, over your life before you're supposed to be able to get the secret teachings. I'm pretty good with the prostrations, I'm in, I don't know, maybe 50,000 so far. And so but now I have difficulty on my knees. So I was sitting in the chair doing the prostrations, and I didn't do too bad with those. I did hundreds. I substituted some things like Buddha Master chant. I did close to 1,000 of those. Those like just roll off. I've got affinity with that, and I needed affinity because my teachers began to emerge. My teachers were 3 live in the woods cockroaches. Those kind that live in the woods, the big ones, and they fly. They're called Well, these were about half the size of palmettos, but they were California ones, and they were in my cabin. I was all set, all my stuff laid out. Everything is perfect. I'm in my groove. I'm just going to enjoy my 7 days. And then I see something run across the wall. And holy snow. What am I going to do about this? I'm not going to be able to sleep. So I get up to try to catch him. Not going to kill him. I'm going to put on a piece of paper and scoot him out the door. He can come back when I'm gone. But he was too fast to even catch and get on the paper. It was fast. So I said, okay, what I'll do is I'll go get a broom. And I would just capture him in the straw of the broom and shake him outside. That's good. So I try to catch him in the broom. I can't catch him in the broom. He's not having the broom. Every time I lift the broom, he's still on the floor and he tries to run away and I have to catch him quick because there's a small space that's going to get under my bed. And then what am I going to do? So I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to herd him back towards the bed so that I have about 5 feet. And then I'm going to do like a golf swing. And I'm going to lift him up and over, because the threshold to the cabin has like a 4-inch threshold. So you can't just sweep him out. Got to get him over this 4-inch threshold, 2x4 is there. So I go and success. He's out. So I'm in great shape. I said, I was thinking about killing him. First response just triggered everything in me. And then I said, okay, but I didn't, because I'm here to practice all living beings are my mother, right? I get up the next morning. I'm invaded by ants. There were so many ants, I had to look out the door to see where they could be possibly coming from. And there is a line of ants that go from my cabin right there at the edge of the grass that starts the little wooded section as well, all the way across the courtyard. And it's a huge courtyard. And they're coming like in rows of three, like a marching army, all the way to the cabin, coming in. Then they spread out two corners of the cabin. And they're all coming in that little cabin. Like I was like about to, I was hyperventilating. So I got the dustpan and I'm trying to sweep. It's just not possible. And so I have to finally look and see, like, where are they going? And then I see where the cloth of the Kuan Yin altar is, and it's down to the floor. And I lift the corner of it, and here they have dissected the bug that I killed. Oh. So I thought I swept him out, but I actually injured him, and I killed him. And he went splat, landed up against the Kuan Yin altar, and there he died. And there they were all up under there, dissecting. Somebody's carrying off a leg. And I just watched this. And so many things went through my mind at that moment. First, there was the grief of killing it. And I was sitting there crying because I killed a roach there. That's not me at all. But there I was. I really felt the pain, the burden of, I said, I'm just a murderer. I have a killing instinct. I mean, I'm fine if I'm not threatened, but there's a level of threat for me. I don't know why I'm so afraid of bugs, but there's a level of threat. And when I reach that, I think I'm capable of killing a human being. I really do. It was clear to me that in that moment, all I could think about was how to move that out away from me. My aversion to it was so great, so deep. Even the name cockroach is repulsive to me. Just everything about it. And then I saw them dismantling this carcass and taking away the pieces. And everybody had come to help do the gathering for the food, continuing the cycle of life. There was so much appreciation I had for these ants that it overrode the fact that they were in my cabin. Except, why don't I just remove the food and put it outside for them? So I did that. And in about 10 seconds, they were all gone, all hundreds gone just that fast. When I removed that source, they were all gone. And I marveled at their capacity to assemble, the great characteristics they have, their heightened sense of smell, their everything, their navigational stuff. I was thinking, boy, they could probably take over the world. I think they're smarter than us just on a basic survival level, even. They're not. And so all of this is before I could even get to my studies. It was just my aspiration the night before. I did my aspirations, and then this. So then suddenly they were gone. The next thing I know, another cockroach. So I didn't do so good with the first. But the problem with this one is that I was in my bed and my cushion was right by my bed. So it was almost the height of my bed because it's kind of low bed. And my arm was hanging off sort of on the cushion. And it crawled on my hand, That one, I wasn't thinking about how to get him over a threshold. That one, I took a book, bam, killed the second one. And what made it worse is I didn't even have that much remorse. And I cleaned that up. And then I began to pray to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, like, this is going to be a failed experiment. I'm going to really need some help here. I really need some help. Yes, I'm looking, I'm seeing my nature deep down. I'm seeing what will cause me to rise up with such a hatred and anger that all I can think about is how to eliminate you. You know, in a way that I never have before, quite like this, and that's why aspiration and intention is so important. So clean that up, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna go to bed." And as I went to turn off the light, that's right up at the top, because in my room there were bunks. All my clothes are laid out on the top bunk, you know. And I look, and there's an army of ants all on the top. So then I pull my covers back and I look in my bed. There are none in my bed, but they're just all making their way up the bunk to the top for no reason but to aggravate me and to intimidate me. And so there they are. First, I only saw like maybe 20. So I'm trying to get them up, put them in a little napkin. And then I move something, and there's hundreds again. So I fold that napkin up, and I'm just, like rubbing them out. I'm just killing them. And there was nothing up there, no food, no nothing. That's why I know they were just coming to intimidate me. Uh, just kidding. So that was my second night. I did get some sitting done. I won't call it sitting meditation, but I was sitting watching for ants. And then the next day I started my practice. And as I did my practice, I would see times when ants would like just come in. Maybe they were just making the rounds to see if there was food, but I kept no food. I ate outside so that there wouldn't be any food inside. And they would just times a day, there'd be a swell of them making their rounds through the village, store, or whatever they considered the cabin. And then they would leave. They just came and they went. And I would just talk to them and say, it's best if you don't come that close to me. I can coexist with you, but you can't get on me and you can't get in my bed. And from that point on, they didn't. They just came when they wanted and they went with it when they wanted. So about midway, here comes cockroach number 3. And I said, you run fast, but I kill faster. And I want you to live and not die at my hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you run. And you go to the farthest corner of the room and you stay there. And we can peacefully coexist. And he did. He was there every once in a while. He'd peek out from behind a bookcase. When the lights came on, he'd come up to see what's up, and then he'd go back. And that's how it was for the rest of the week. But every time I had to deal with myself around what was arising in me, why it was arising, why did I feel threatened? Some of it, you can't think on it too long because you don't know. You don't know why. It's just, through life kinds of experiences and conditions, and you don't know why. So you can spend a minute trying to figure out what in this moment, but not going all back into your past and who was I in the past and what was I, because no, but right here, right now, what triggered that right now? And I recognized it was just a lack of discipline over my aversion to it. So I tried to just work simply on my aversion. That was the only why I reacted. It was a visceral response to my aversion, and for whatever the reason was. And I just dealt with myself that way. And I would say aversion, aversion. And that's how I managed to get through the rest of the week. And after a while, I forgot about it. When the ants arrived, I said good morning to them, not so much to the cockroach, but to the ants, I could say good morning. And then the last day, I'm packing up. He got the last dig in on me. It's 3 a.m, 5 minutes to 3. I need to be outside with my bags going to the airport. And I've got everything packed, just my few books that are left on the bookcase. I get my books and I put my books in my suitcase. And then I had my notebook, not this one, but I had my black study notebook. And I pick it up and something says, open the cover. I open the cover and that's where he's living in my notebook. And he runs off the page, falls on the floor, and runs. Now, why he couldn't just live behind the bookcase like other bugs do, I don't know. But he lived in my notebook. And I almost took him home with me. But something said, open and flip the notebook. And I opened, as soon as I opened the cover, there it was. So those were my teachers while I was on retreat. And they broke me down when I saw myself and what I was capable of doing, even with the best intentions. And so it's this level when he has us do the shifting the mind practice, it's for this reason, so that we can really know ourselves and that we can discover, uncover, and uproot these tendencies that go back so far and that are so deep down within us, and that we can justify for health issues, for any other kinds of issues. But even if we have to do things for health issues or whatever, I'm talking about the hating mind, the mind of aversion, and that one that brings up the urge to kill. And that was my practice. I did lots of, because Zazi likes all of these, do 20 of these, 10 of these, 15 of these, 100 of these, and they do them 3 times a day. And I did my exit interview. I said, there's no way anybody can do this and not just be busy. That's number one. There's no way, the way the retreat is laid out, it's a wonderful retreat, but people have to have the time for deep introspection. So instead of doing this 3 times a day, once a day, but spending as much time as you need with any particular aspect of it. So some of it is discipline, training, getting into the habit of doing something. Just like you get up and wash your face and brush your teeth, you get up and there's 3 mantras that you recite for inadvertently killing beings, because when you're walking, when you're breathing, when you're eating, we're always killing living beings. There's universes in us, and just being aware of that on a very subtle level. Our compassion growing deeper. We talk about all beings. We should drop all from our vocabulary, because all does not mean all to us. And so that in time, I've adjusted mine to, while I was there, I could no longer say all truthfully, because I was looking out to see if I might need to kill something, every day. So I stopped saying all, and I just said living beings. I vow to save living beings. I couldn't even say there will be no living beings I will not save, because I knew myself at that moment. I could not say that, But by the time I got through the middle of the week, the intention was there. and I could say that and that really be an aspiration, because I saw my limitation. And now I'm saying I vow to save all living beings. I want to be able to not have aversion towards any living being. Doesn't mean we have to live together, but I don't have to have the aversion to them. And so that's the way. So these things that we say, all of these recitations that we do, there are methods to have a certain effect, to leave an imprint on the mind that turns the mind to it. And one day, some circumstance will come up in line with your aspiration, and you'll look and you'll see how you are like so totally missing that mark, and that this is just what I say. And it'll hit you like a ton of bricks. And then one can begin to make that shift. And gradually through these recitations, we wash our mind, we incline to shift our mind. That's why he calls it shifting the mind consciousness. So I'm going to read to you a Dharma today, and I think I think my story will help someone to give us a little bit more understanding of what we do and why we do it. So it's not just giving out mantras or, giving out mudras. It's not just hand jive. It's not, but they are actually methods that activate a resonance between certain minds, between our mind and the mind of certain beings. And we have all kinds of beings in the universe. And we are, and the way we stand ready to help and assist some living beings, there are other living beings who stand ready to help and assist us. And they may have different types of bodies as well as different types of mind. Fine material bodies, not so gross and dense like the ones we have here. So when we're singing incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. It's not like just the incense. The incense is just a symbol of our mind, coming on one accord and ascending to its highest levels of capacity. All space is filled with its fragrance, that great intent. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. Auspicious clouds symbolize the coming of the great holy beings, And we sing that song, "Great holy beings fall fresh on us." So there's this our ascending and in state, and they're responding to our request and the coming together of this. So our mantra and our mudra has a kind of power, but its power to arouse the great beings depends on our intensity. It depends on our earnestness. So it triggers, but the actual saving capacity is theirs. So I'm not doing them a favor when I'm making these aspirations. I'm not doing them a favor when I'm, we misunderstand what ritual practice is. But what we're doing is we're like taking a key that's been given to us to unlock what's behind door number 3, and they are doing the work, but that work is based on our sincerity, on our great wish. We have no great wish, they do nothing. They're paracletes. Paraclete helps you at what you initiate. You initiate nothing, there's nothing for them to help with. And so that's the first step, because the capacity is so great. And they lift us to that vibration that dispels the clouds of ignorance. And that's the difference in the dispersing of our clouds of ignorance and the the clouds of the advent of the holy beings. And that's part of the process is us with our own minds um, merging with their minds, merging with them, and that's what some of the visualization is all about. Us no longer seeing ourselves as us. You can't be talking about illusory nature and non-self and all of that all day long, and we're constantly seeing ourselves as us more and more concrete. We're just playing double dutch, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. No. And by the same token, opening up to their presence allows us to know that presence. And so there's this shifting. So we say, see this life as a dream. We're very aware of the concreteness of it. It's not that it's not concrete, but it's not concrete only. It's concrete and it's empty. It's both of those. It's actually neither of those. But we start with it's this or it's this. And then it's this and this. And ultimately it'll be it's neither this nor this. And the three flow unhindered together. So when there needs to be something, it's firm, it's there. When it doesn't need to be, not attached to it, it's not at all. And when we get into this fluidity, that's really what's called marvelous existence. And so those ants and the bugs made me aware of how concretized I was around a particular perception, a particular way of looking and knowing and being within it. I could just as easy be in one that would say, good morning, sunshine, when they came in, have a great scavenger hunt today, clean the, clean the area really good for me, and thank you. I could just as easily have been that way. It take a little bit of more insight for me to find a good reason for the cockroach. I'll work on it maybe another time if the opportunity presents itself, but maybe it's not necessary. So I'll just try to roll with it is what I'm saying, But I'm going to be trying to work with my mind. Like, no, don't need any tests. I'm going to take that one. And that's how we can get through things. That's how we will grow and how we will develop, and things will become natural for us and they become easier for us. Just trying to fall into our great aspiration. So all in all, it was a very successful retreat for me, although I was just bawling. You have your daily interview, and you can just share anything you want to share. Or you say, I have nothing to share, I won't be there. And Master had gone through so much effort to make things comfortable, bought a new rug, bought me a camp potty that I couldn't use, so I just used the trash can, and it was easier. Every new invention is not a good one, but they tried. Having the meals prepared, just everything. You need anything, you need anything. So I made an effort to go and share something every day with her, but by day number 2, I was bawling all the way across the courtyard. I'm just a murderer. Master has hugged me one time in 15 years, and she didn't even know what to do with that. So we were like at the airport, and she was like, and then she did that, and that was it. And I was like floored because she just doesn't hug. So I'm a hugger, but I don't hug her because I know she doesn't hug. And I was sitting there and I'm bawling and bawling. She just got up out of her chair and put her arms around me. And she said, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help you. I said, you can't help me. You can't help me. I've got to work through this myself. You know, she said, "You want to move in the house? I'll find a bed for you in the house." And I said, "No, I'm going to stay out here, and I'm gonna master this. I'm going to use my own mind to rescue myself from my own mental terror. I'm going to do that." And that's what I did. And it seems like silly that we wasted, I guess, maybe a half an hour talking about some bugs in a cabin, you know. But it meant everything to me concerning my intention for this retreat and where I want to enter as a bodhisattva. And I have a whole different appreciation for a bodhisattva. And Buddha Master said bodhisattvas, they don't give up their habitual tendencies because that's the way that they connect with our suffering. I'm like, I'm going to just try to shoot straight for Buddhahood. I'm going to do a fast trip through Bodhisattvaville if I can. I'm just being facetious, but in a way I'm not. The goal is important, but I recognize I have need go through some area. I have to go through this territory. I do. For some people, it could be people of other nationalities, or other cultures, or other backgrounds. For some people, it's disdain for who they consider ignorant because they're smart. For other people, it could be you could just name your poison, but find your poison. I've been preparing to do this. What's that thing that I want to do? The Dharma that passed through barriers. That was an aspiration I brought up a few weeks ago. Well, I didn't bring it up. Buddha Master was saying, "Look, go right there," and I was like, "Oh no, I'm not ready for that one." The Dharma that passed through barriers is when you take the thing that you recognize as being your worst, attribute, and that's the one that you're going to subdue. And then he says, and then you have to keep your resolve. And if you don't do it, you're lower than a human being. You're like a worm. I mean, he was like I'm not, I'm not gonna do that one right now. No, because I would be taking all of that into my mind. He's saying like really work on it intently. That's what he's saying. Don't play around with it. That's just his way of speaking it and saying don't be facetious. Don't be taking up something. Don't be trying to think you're badass. Don't be trying to, just but look and don't be picking all the little easy ones, but like just go to those places. Like if you want to attain, what you say you want to attain. If you don't, no problem. But if you do, it's going to take this. And so I was looking at that and I was like, I'm about ready. Here I go. And I was, so first I said, well, first maybe I need to confess to somebody what it is. That'll help keep me honest. If I could have a couple of people I could tell, no, I can't tell anybody this. So I don't think I told it. I tell almost everything. But everything, my mind doesn't even want to think of that thing right now that I wanted to give up. That's how bad that is. But I'm pretty sure I haven't. I'm not positive. But anyway, I decided I wouldn't do that Dharma right now. And going to this retreat, let me know I'm definitely not ready to do that Dharma. There's so many other Dharmas are the actual practice that we do that align us with the mind of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. That's what a Dharma is. That's what a Dharma is the actual practice that we undertake that refines our character, our qualities, and that gives us our abilities that have been not earned, but that have been developed and come to the surface through the basis of our practice. Dharma is not reading Dharma talks or giving Dharma talks or memorizing sutras or any of that. Although we do all of that, the ultimate Dharma is mimicking and assimilating and taking on the behavior of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas until there's no difference between us and we're all of one mind. So we have the ultimate, we clearly understand what Dharma in its true sense is. Isn't it wonderful to even know that? Even if you can't live up to it, even if you can't walk in it now, to not be confused about what it is, and going around thinking, I got the Dharma, I got the Dharma, just to be able to see it clearly. I'm like, it's like, the Dharma can find me. I know I'm not lost. I can find myself on the Dharma map. That's so much to be grateful for. So we can rejoice when we make a lot of progress. We can rejoice when we make a little progress. And sometimes I could even say we can rejoice when we make no progress, because the progress that we want to make has to arise on the process of conduct. And if we're not at a place we want to be, it's because we haven't taken up the conduct that allows us to be on that platform. That's why it's not there. So there's no point in being upset about that, discouraged about it, sad about it. Just keep looking at your aspiration and washing your mind at the pace that you can, and you will see it will show itself to you, and you'll be able to, he keeps saying, naturally, you'll be able to naturally move and progress in this way. And now you'll look back and you'll see how much progress you made, how you're not the same as you were a month ago or 6 months ago or a year ago. And what can you say? What has changed? I can't actually put my finger on it. I just know that I'm different. I'm different in a true and living way. I don't care if I can't put words to it, but one knows within oneself. That's one's self-realization. Understand what these terms mean. That's self-realization. One knows for oneself. I can tell you, you can believe it or not believe it. I don't care. I don't have to tell you. You can see it or not see it. I do care because I want to be an example of that. So when it gets to a certain level, maybe you'll see it, but maybe you won't see it because you don't want to see it. You're not looking for it. That's why you cannot be attached to anything, not any aspiration, not wanting anything from anybody. And that's how you start to become aware of the spaciousness of the non-discriminating mind. Then everything can be just as it is. And we can get to it faster and faster the more we can just discipline ourselves not to have an immediate reaction based on what we currently know. That hindrance of knowledge is that's our wall. So when we see something, we see somebody do something, oh, I know what that is. We hear somebody say something, oh, I know what they really mean. We see somebody, and we just break out into judging and discrimination. And that's what we have to uproot. And if we can uproot that, I'll tell you, that's 90% of our suffering. 90% of our suffering is the dramas we make up in our mind that cause us to think and speak and act the way we do. And it's a kind of a weight, a pressure, a pressing in on us that we feel all the time. But when you enter into these states are so light that you don't feel the pressures of our everyday assessment and perceptions and conceptualizations of what's going on. We're just like there in the ether, and these things are happening or not happening, and we can be with it all because we're not attached to any of it. And that's just blah, blah until it's not blah, blah for you. Until it's something that you taste a little bit of and you know that there's something real to it, and you start to step in. So I'm going to read this Dharma talk. I don't know. This is so I don't have to set them down and lose them, right? So I open them up and set them down and lose them, but they're supposed to just go around my neck, so I don't have to look for them. This holy story chain Buddha III imparts Dharma in response to conditions and needs of disciples during the trip. This was when he was still in his question period for 5 years. He said, you can just come in and I won't give any Dharma talks. I'm just going to answer questions. You pose a question, I'll give a Dharma talk on that. And that's what he did for 5 years. At the end, he said, this is the end of the 5 years of questions. No more questions. Now I'm gonna teach you some principles that you need, and that's what I'm gonna do. And then when he finished that, he went into his last phase and he left in parting, and then he said, that is all. And so this is when he was in his answering question stage on various topics. These topics are, one cannot enter meditation practice because we're getting ready to go into, I keep saying like we're getting ready to go, but actually we are actually going into it. You know, I'm just showing you how you get into it without going into it. One cannot enter meditation practice without shifting the mind, consciousness practice. Shifting the mind, consciousness practice. So that's the same as meditation practice? No, it's different. One cannot enter meditation practice without shifting the mind practice. I don't have a clock. To me. Thank you. I will have time. And each additional time of sincerely listening to Dharma gives rise to manifold increments of merit. That's the second thing he's going to talk about. Each additional time of sincerely listening to Dharma gives rise to manifold increments of merit. And the third is different levels of power in raising the consciousness of the deceased. The different levels of power in raising the consciousness of the deceased. All disciples, as in the past few days, see what questions you have on Dharma or anything you want to know. You can raise your questions now, but try your best to speak succinctly. Since we don't have much time today, I'll only respond to 1 or 2 questions, or maybe 3. A Buddhist disciple puts her palms together and asks her question. If he would speak on, if he would impart Dharma on shifting the mind consciousness practice and versus meditation practice. He says, fine, I know. Then the second one says, I respectfully beseech Buddha Master to impart Dharma. Is it true that listening to Dharma one more time will give rise to an increment of merit? It's a good question you raised. I will respond to this. You raised the best question. A Buddhist disciple then asks, I respectfully ask Buddha Master to impart Dharma on the mantra of raising the consciousness of, is it true that the more sincere we are, or the more accomplished a practitioner is, the more effective the chanting of the mantra would be? And said, that's it. Just these 3 questions will take a rather long time. Who raised the first question? What was it? The disciple says about shifting the mind consciousness practice and meditation. Shifting the mind consciousness practice and meditation practice. Regarding these 2 practices, throughout history, patriarchs always talked about meditation practice when they delved into the ultimate truth of Buddha Dharma. They almost always emphasized the need to practice meditation, the need to practice samatha and vipassana, the need to enter samadhi. They talked about the 3-fold practice, morality, concentration, and wisdom, in which morality gives rise to concentration, concentration gives rise to wisdom. Concentration is about attaining the state of meditative absorption, or jhana or dhyana, transcending our intrinsic control over our thoughts and entering into another dimension. They talked about the 3-fold practice, morality, concentration, and wisdom. Morality gives rise to concentration. Concentration gives rise to wisdom. Concentration is about attaining the state of meditative absorption, or jhana or dhyana, transcending our intrinsic control over our thoughts and entering into another dimension. At that time, you will thoroughly awaken to the truth of enlightenment. That's why they tended to always talk about meditation practice, in which in fact is incomplete. Meditation practice is precisely a point of origination that cannot enable people to, a point of origination. Meditation practice is precisely a point of origination that cannot enable people to attain liberation. So what they're saying is that it's not, you cannot enter meditation, attain liberation. It is not a point in the cycle that will allow you to go to liberation. It is called the point of dependent origination. Why? If you start by going into meditation practice and to let go of everything, you cannot let go of anything. There's no way to achieve that. That's why this kind of Buddha Dharma is incomplete. In the entire world, however, it can be said that basically all major Buddhist sects only know about meditation practice, and they don't know about shifting the mind consciousness practice. Why is it called shifting the mind consciousness practice? All meditation practices must be built upon the foundation of shifting the mind consciousness practice. So when I went there for this solitary meditation retreat, my teachers there gave me an introduction to stepping into the shifting the mind consciousness practice. I couldn't even start my meditation practices until that experience, and that was a real live, I had to deal with it until I could either shift my mind or I wouldn't be able to shift my mind, you know. But there was no, he was saying, don't even come here and think you meditating, you know, and that it's a real meditation, because it's just phony meditation. It's just you in your head. Because here, I'll show you. A couple of ants come out, just lost it. So, it says, why is it called shifting the mind consciousness practice? It's because all meditation practices must be built upon the foundation of shifting the mind consciousness practice. Simply speaking, that means if you do not activate your mind consciousness and do not shift your mind consciousness, there is no way for you to enter meditation. You must first activate your mind consciousness to decide how to visualize. What picture will you hold in your mind? Which Dharma rules will you apply to practice this visualization? How to visualize at a particular moment. That is when your mind consciousness is activated. Activating your mind consciousness is called shifting the mind consciousness. Only after you've activated your mind consciousness can you enter meditation practice according to the method that your activated mind consciousness has decided upon. I'm going to read that again. Only after you have activated your mind consciousness can you enter meditation practice according to the method that that your activated mind consciousness has decided upon. People only tell you you need to enter meditation practice by letting go of all thoughts. What kind of letting go is that? What to let go? Where do you let them go? It is simply impossible to let go without activating, shifting the mind consciousness practice. It's impossible to practice meditation. I'll explain a bit clearer how to shift your mind consciousness. You may say that you practice the Dharma method of chanting the name of the Buddha. The Dharma method of chanting the name of the Buddha has always required activating the mind consciousness in the first place. It's by activating your mind consciousness that you visualize Amitabha Buddha and observe the sound of chanting the name. What you activate is your mind consciousness. Without your mind consciousness, how could you start? Without your mind consciousness means your mind is unable to differentiate. You'd have no idea of who the Buddha is, who Buddha Amitabha is, or who Buddha Shakyamuni is. You'd have no idea at all, understand? You must first activate your mind consciousness so you know you are chanting the name of the Buddha who represents the attributes that you're trying to realize, rather than just the name of anyone. So let's say Amitabha, for example, according to his vow, rather than Kashidagarbha or Shakyamuni Buddha. So the Buddhist disciples respectfully replied, yes. He said, that's called differentiation. That's why meditation practice must be built upon the foundation of activating differentiation first and then shifting the mind consciousness. So we talk all of this talk about, oh, yes, I'm going to get into meditation. That's the non-differentiating mind, and then and we tell ourselves that, like mentally, like we're in this non-differentiating space. Because at first, you have to differentiate to know what method, what path, what one is directing one's mind to before they can go into, and then shift the mind into that gear before they can go into non-differentiation. Within that shifted space and perspective based upon differentiation. You see, so we have to think through the things that we hear and think through the things that we read until they really open up for us in a way until we see the method, we see the methodology, we see the step-by-step progress. We know when we're taking one step back, and sometimes we have to take 2 steps back because we left the process 2 steps back and we were just carried on in our mind because we want to do good, be good, have good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I love that movie, The King and I. See how quickly the mind can like just shift to something. You see, you have to keep it light. You know what I'm saying? Because this is deep stuff. I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to get it, because then the brain will start trying to concretize around a concept, and it'll start squeezing, and you just won't get it. You won't get it. But if you keep it light, then you can. Even if it means you circle back around and read that again, circle back around and read that again. And that's how he's doing as he's inculcating our minds. He's just continually circling back around and saying it again. And that's why we can hear it 50 times, and every time we understand something different about it. Or we thought we were clear last time, but like, I'm really clear this time, and then we circle back around and we thought we were clear last time, but I'm really clear this time, and it's like that. But each time we're getting it in a deeper way, a fuller way that we can activate it without so much of the try and the effort. It becomes more like naturally occurring. And why wouldn't it be when this is our intrinsic nature? The true Dhammakaya is who we are. It's not us. It's what we are. In the beginning, when we only know us in the way we know us, it has to speak of the Dhammakaya being us, our intrinsic nature. But the closer you get to seeing it, you recognize that Panyawadi was the illusion. The Dhammakaya is all that is real. And that's how then life starts to become more like a dream as one starts moving towards the pure Dhammakaya. Hmm. So first one must differentiate. That's why meditation practice must be built upon the foundation of activating differentiation and then shifting the mind consciousness. Hence, the profundity of our Buddha Dharma is in the absolute truth imparted by Shakyamuni Buddha. Without shifting the mind consciousness practice, all meditation practices are just empty talk. That means those patriarchs did not understand Buddha Dharma, regardless of how high their levels had been as patriarchs or how famous they might have been. They likewise did not fully understand. They likewise were inept and not adept. The practice of Buddha Dharma must be established upon shifting the mind consciousness practice. The practice of Buddha Dharma must be established upon shifting the mind consciousness practice. Even though it doesn't take much time and can be done in an instant, there still must be such practice. Just like using a computer or making a phone call or set and so forth. Even though it doesn't take much time to press the keys, if you don't press those keys, nothing is going to happen. Do you understand what I said? I am therefore telling the future generations that learning and practicing Buddha Dharma must be established upon the foundation of shifting the mind consciousness. I've only talked about shifting the mind consciousness practice in very broad terms today because I don't want to take up too much of your time. What other questions are there? So I'm saying this to say to us, don't be in a hurry for what we think is the great substance of the practice. And we think that that is the meditation, but it is the shifting the mind consciousness practice. Because when we have been successful in those aspects of discrimination, shifting the mind, and then once it is shifted, then non-discrimination, that is the plane that allows access to meditation, which is entering into these other dimensions. You're not going to meditate your way into other dimensions. Other dimensions that you access is the meditation. That's the distinction that, or one distinction that he's trying to make. So it's the shifting the mind consciousness that creates the platform for entrance into these greater dimensions. Okay. And he stops right there. Just to get that into us. And then we'll be holding things in the right way. Regarding whether the second question was regarding whether listening to Dharma gives rise to an increment of merit. If what you listen to is Dharma, meaning true Dharma, the correct Dharma imparted by true Buddhas, the teachings of all Buddhas in the 10 directions, then every time you listen to Dharma, you will gain an increment of merit. So we shouldn't disdain listening to Dharma. We saw someone yesterday, and she's saying, like, I like to buy Buddhist books. I don't like to study with any teacher because I think it's more important. The teachings are what's important, not the teacher. And in a sense, that's true. But you better make sure that the teachings come from a teacher who can teach true Dharma. I mean, we think we only need the teachings to learn Dharma, but for everything else, we need it live and in person. I mean, like having Dharma with no teacher is like having a dead husband. It's there is something in the transmission of the living interaction that and I wanted to speak to it, but I didn't want to turn her off, because she wasn't here for that. But she posed something, and and I really wanted to encourage her that that it would be useful for her to try to find a teacher and not just make her reliance on the Dharma based on books on people she doesn't even know. Buddha said, don't even take anybody out to be your teacher until you've observed them for a long time. You know, like, are they living the Dharma? Are they even trying to live the Dharma? How do you know? You don't know. People can write good books. I've read some good books by people, and they didn't even write them. They had ghostwriters write them. So, you know, I'm just saying, it is good to have a teacher. She said, so just so you can be accountable. She said, I see your point. I see you. But it's not even so much for being accountable. That's going to be another reason to leave one. Like, if we start making it so that I can be accountable, like, you know, but for the great joy of the relationship, for the possibility of an undefiled stream of wisdom to flow, you know, that one doesn't have to get caught up in the teacher, but the teacher just as an instrument of the flow of the stream of life. And it's living, has a living quality and transmission with it. And so if you have disdain for that, what Dharma can she learn? You know, but I didn't want to say that. Couldn't say that. No. So I did encourage her, you know. I wasn't saying me. I was just saying, find somebody who knows more than you, who lives that life, and see what that relationship will give. Don't be so fast to run away and do your thing. You know, the taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha has a purpose, or he wouldn't keep saying it does. Even when we don't see the purpose, even when we see it as a hindrance. I'm in such a good relationship with Zazi right now. And nothing has changed except that I stopped trying to change Zazi. You know, I'm working on Panyawadi. And the more I work on Panyawadi, the less of an irritation or something she seems to be to Zazi. You know, that's a really good thing. But I had to learn that my impatience was not going to move the hand of things, but my fervent, effectual clasping, not grasping, but clasping the hand of the Dharma will open up those doors. You know? Yeah. The amount of merit is based on the kind of Dharma you listen to, and that determines how much merit you will gain after listening to that Dharma. At the same time, and more importantly, it depends on whose Dharma it is, whether it is a Dharma that you read from a book, a sutra with your eyes, a Dharma you listened to with your ears, or a Dharma imparted by Buddhas in the 10 directions that you listen to in person. The natures are different. Each time you have the opportunity and condition to listen to Dharma, you're getting one step closer to the Bodhi path. That's for certain. However, whether the step that you take is a long or short stride, a jump or a pole vault is based on the degree of piousness and sincerity you have when listening to the true Dharma, and whether your devoutness and sincerity are pure. Also, it depends on whether the Dharma is imparted by a magnificently great Buddha. For instance, when Buddha Dipankara was imparting the Dharma, everyone was listening. Buddha Shakyamuni was listening so intently that he was completely absorbed in it without differentiating, whereas Bodhisattva Maitreya gave rise to differentiating. Bodhisattva Maitreya thought, the Buddha has imparted this Dharma before I heard this before, and I've listened to it already many times. I've listened to it already. Hence, he missed listening to the Dharma for that 1.5 days later on, when Shakyamuni Buddha was prophesied to attain Buddhahood in the Vulture's Peak Dharma Assembly. Bodhisattva Maitreya was taken by surprise. That is, he was taken aback might be a little more descriptive. And immediately he asked Buddha Deepankar, magnificently great Buddha, my magnificent master, hasn't it been prophesied that I would attain Buddhahood before Shakyamuni Buddha does? Buddha Deepankar replied, that's right, it was prophesied based on the causes, conditions, and causality of that moment, of that time. You were supposed to attain Buddhahood at Dragon Flower Assembly first. However, one time when listening to the Dharma, you only listened to half of that Dharma that was imparting, thinking that you'd heard it before, like the rest of us already. And you left before the next Dharma impartation session without listening to the rest of the Dharma. That's why you did not have that part of merit. Meanwhile, Shakyamuni persisted in listening and was receptive to all aspects of the Dharma. And as a result, his merit grew so much that he surpassed you by many kalpas and will attain Buddhahood ahead of you. However, he will hand down his Kesak and alms bowl to you, and you will become the next Buddha of this world. You will attain Buddhahood in the Dragon Flower Dharma Assembly. So now, Maitreya Buddha will be the next Buddha of this world. Then you say, well, if there was Shakyamuni and then there's Buddha Master, well, who is Buddha Master? Buddha Master said, I am not the Buddha of this world. I am a Buddha of a world. I am a Buddha, but I've come to this world to kind of shore up the teachings that are imperfect and they're lost, to give us more time and more of a footing for that prophecy to come to pass. So I'm straightening out that which has become crooked, maybe not all of it, but enough of it for more of us to be able to hold the standard and pass down the torch in a way that the Dhamma will remain in the world. We're doing many things that will cause it to choke out. You know how your children do something and you say you're going to do something or you're going to give them something, then they do something really bad. And because of that, you change your mind. Like I was going to give them this or take them that place. Now they acting out. No, that's off the table for now. And they're like, oh, but you promised, and this and that. And you think you can act anyway, and you're still going to get it? No, that was not an incentive, but it was like a reward for good behavior. I'm not going to punish bad behavior. Like, no, you can't go. And so things are dependent on cause and condition. Don't think a prophecy is forever settled in heaven. It is not. It's based on the moment in time. And if things continue in this way, that's what it'll be. If something shifts, that's why Buddha said you can't be attached to anything. Because if something shifts, then you just lost. Because what? You don't think things shift? And because things shifted, then everything's supposed to still go straight ahead? No. If it shifts, then you're going to have to figure out where to go and what to do from here according to this shift. And this is coming to know what wisdom is actually in your mind and being able to use your own wisdom to take you. Now, how do I guess like you make a wrong turn? And then you couldn't, let's just do a square block and get back on the right road because there's a detour now. And then you have to figure out how in the world do I get back over here? And we want to like click on the GPS, but without the GPS, we're totally lost. And he says a GPS is a good thing to have, but better to have your own mind, better to have your own wisdom so that you know how to get to your destination from where you are right now. When these conditions have arisen, now what? Hence, after Venerable Mahakassapa received the flower sermon during Vulture's Peak Dharma Assembly, Buddha Shakyamuni instructed him to bring the Buddha's Kaisak and alms bowl and to go to China. Venerable Mahakassapa then entered Samadhi at Washerman on Mount Jizu in China. Why did Mahakassapa enter Samadhi? He entered Samadhi because the wait is too long. He has to wait many years for Bodhisattva Maitreya to incarnate into this world and perfect his merit to attain Buddhahood. And at that time, Mahakassapa will also take rebirth and will follow the instructions given by Buddha Shakyamuni to personally present the cassock and alms bowl to Maitreya and drape the cassock over Bodhisattva Maitreya. The golden lotus will surge forth from the earth. And by then, Bodhisattva Maitreya will officially become a Buddha, and he will be known as Buddha Jampa. That's why listening to Dharma is extremely important. Every additional time that you listen to Dharma, especially the Dharma imparted by the Buddhas in the 10 directions, your opportunity for attaining accomplishment is greatly advanced. Each additional time you listen to Dharma will enable you to gain an increment of merit. As I said earlier, the amount of increment in your merit depends on whether you're listening to it wholeheartedly, which is very crucial. It has to do with whether you're listening attentively and whether you're pure-minded. Not like, oh, I don't believe that. Maybe so. I disagree with that. So just listen right now. Just listen. You don't even spend this time now trying to assess it. Sister, you can come and sit. So you can come back and sit. Yeah, you don't have to stand out there. So listening means listening. And then one has to, contemplate what was said and try to see the benefit of what was said, not the obstacle to accepting it, but what the benefit. Now, you might ultimately reject it. I'm not saying that there's nothing you can reject. Your mind, your life, you can reject anything. There's some things that I can't quite figure out yet. So I'm not saying like I just accept it all, just blind faith, but what I don't do is I don't reject it. I just let it sit on that shelf right there. And then later something happens and then my opening understands. And that just makes so much sense to me. Well, it didn't make any sense at all. Or like it made sense, but like right now I don't feel like doing that, And so just being truthful with where we are and learning how to hold that which we have not penetrated with wisdom, just hold it, let it sit there instead of cutting through and discarding, just slicing and dicing. Some people's causes and conditions, Each additional time you listen to Dharma will enable you to gain an increment of merit. As I said earlier, the amount of increment in your merit depends on whether you're listening wholeheartedly, which is very crucial. It has to do with whether you're listening attentively and whether you're pure-minded. That means taking delight in what you hear, even if it's, wow, that's tough, that's hard, can't do that yet, but taking delight in what you hear. All in all, having more opportunities for you to listen to Dharma would be the most advantageous, wonderful, and auspicious causes and conditions. For example, going to Wasang Sir, I said yesterday on the way back that I must go to Wasang Sir to impart a Dharma. When I got back yesterday, the monastics requested that. In fact, even if you hadn't requested it, I was coming anyway. Since each person's causes and conditions are different, some people will listen to Dharma one more time, some will listen one less time. Some people's causes and conditions have matured in an explosive manner. It's going to be a two-part read. And based on everyone's shared karma, it's time for them to listen to Dharma. Therefore, listening to Dharma is conditioned by causality. Listening to Dharma is conditioned by causality. Listening to Dharma is conditioned by causality, and no one can preclude that from happening. Do you understand? Could I go 5 more minutes? I just want to touch on this other one. We won't get through it. Regarding the mantra for raising consciousness. And that's where he stopped with that. So notice he just wanted to stop and leave something that you could, this is correction, self-correcting. We hear and we self-correct. Regarding the mantra for raising consciousness, it should be said that whether the consciousness of the deceased can be raised depends on the realization power of the practitioner. If the practitioner possesses great realization power, then they can raise the consciousness of the deceased. If the practitioner's realization power is not great, they have no way to raise consciousness. Whether it's possible to invoke response from heaven and the worlds of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas has to do with the practitioner who is raising the consciousness. It also has to do with the deceased whose consciousness is being raised due to the different types of karmic forces that they have. Because simply speaking, those who always abstain from doing bad deeds do all kinds of good deeds and have planted good causes from innumerable lifetimes and many kalpas. Naturally, their dark karma is light. Their good karma is heavy, which is very crucial. The principle in raising consciousness and in invoking response from the heavens is the same. Some people can easily invoke response, and some people cannot. There used to be a holy person known as Dharma Master Yongding, and he was a fellow brother of yours. Some disciples knew him, some didn't. Did anyone here know him? I see. Two people used to know him. She didn't know him. Don't point at her. Pointing at her is meaningless since she did not raise her hand. That means she did not know him. Now, who was that? That was a busybody who's all in somebody else's stuff. You either knew him or you didn't. And Buddha Master would deal with things like that. But see how he'll take a sidebar and he'll like bring something forward that, oh, I'm not just being fussed at. I'm being shown a truth here. And that could be one or two or three people out of a whole crowd. So that guy was saying, oh, I think she knew him. He was like, you're not in this. You either know it or you didn't. That's it. So pointing at her is meaningless since she didn't raise her hand. That means she didn't know him. Dharma Master Yongding was a holy monk, and as a disciple of mine, his knowledge and views were very pure and correct. He's very remarkable. And was able to invoke response from the heavens. He was also able to make advanced arrangements with heaven. That, of course, might sound strange and mystifying to you. As to whether that is true or not, I'll only speak from the scientific evidence that was left behind. He was the only one who knew how he achieved that. He was also able to know every day's weather conditions accurately down to the exact time and hour when there would be wind or rain and when the sun would come out. Initially, when the construction of the museum in Arhant's Hall at Lingwei Sha had just started, he forecasted the weather for 3 days, and afterwards everybody been going to him, asking him for help. All those people showed up to ask for his help. And Kuei Daoji was also there at that time. So many people went to him requesting help. They said, Monk, please help us by forecasting the weather. We're in trouble because we have so little time that we won't be able to finish construction on time. The Chinese government built this museum in China, not for Buddha Master, but honoring Buddha Master. And it was the first time they'd ever built a museum in honor of anybody, but because his art was so great. The invitations and so you know what happens if you don't finish on time. And the Chinese government is doing it. And they said, Monk, please help us by forecasting the weather. We're in trouble because and the invitations have already been sent out, yet the museum is still under construction. What are we supposed to do? We need help. Please consult the heavens for our sake and find out every day's weather conditions. How do I know about this, Master? I did not hear about it from anybody. It was the time since they had prepared food for us in Fomu Holy Mother, the great Mahasattva, and I had lunch there. And when I looked to the right, I saw this very big chart posted showing when there would be wind, when there'd be rain, and so forth. And I asked, what is that? And the information was spread out over 3 months. I said, what is it? Why have you listed that on the charts? It didn't look like a work schedule. It was simply about wind and rain. And then the disciple said, explained to him what the chart was. And it's a prediction. He said, what prediction? Said initially he predicted weather for 3 days, which happened to be very accurate. Afterwards, we begged him to help us because we were running out of time. And he did not agree at first, saying it was not something that could be easily negotiated for because a 3-month forecast must go through the Jade Emperor to be determined. That's no small matter, and I have no such ability. I cannot do it. So the Jade Emperor, is an immortal who's in a particular heavenly realm or dimension. Okay. And those dimensions are longer, like lifespan here might be 70, 80, 90 years. Lifespan there might be 30,000 years. That just different differences. That's why they call them immortals and these longevity heavens. And he says, it's no small matter. I cannot do it. Then all of us begged him and he agreed. He said, fine, since this is the situation, I'll give it a try, but I'm not sure it can be done. I don't know whether he will agree to it or not. And he went into solitary practice for a half a day. And when he came out, he said, okay, it's been resolved. Everything's been resolved. Give me a pen and I'll write down for you what he said. And then he wrote down the day's weather for the 3 months, whether it be overcast or sunny, whether the sun would come out there, or there would be rain, where there'd be wind, where the direction the wind would come from, and so forth. And they based their construction project around this wisdom that was given to them. And so when we're talking about entering, and I'll finish this story because it's time to close down. I'll finish the story on Thursday. But when I speak of these capacities and speak of the capabilities that come from entering into certain dimensions where there is greater wisdom, greater vision, greater foresight, greater knowing, it's not activating our own mind consciousness to know this. That's based on our factors of observing through seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and thinking. It's the wisdom that is unlocked and available on those on those dimensions, on those levels. So it's a wisdom that comes to us, and we have this wisdom, and it's afforded to us by the beings who live in these dimensions. So one gets a knowing, and not only that, one taps into one's own intrinsic by the resonance of that the resonance of our own intrinsic state arising that's resonating with that. So this is our own wisdom arising, as well as being with our beings on that level as our friends and companions in our walk through life. So this is not wisdoms that we will gain through effort. These are wisdoms that will come through us through those two other methods: the sharing of other beings in these dimensions, and us tapping into our commensurate capacity of Dharmakaya. Is that clear? It may not be, but that's all right. You'll hear it over and over, and it will become clearer. And so then one will know these things because there's the collapsing of time, past, present, and future, and all the things we theorize about now. But there will be, we'll actually be residing in that knowing, and so we can easily see what's in the future and easily see what's in the past based on this world. Timing. And that's why I say we can plan and we can do all that, but really understand we're doing all this planning at a very low level, and leave some space for there to be some intervention that will take us more surely and more purely and more quickly to the goals that we have, to our aspirations. And it's a great story. I'll finish the story next week. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad to be back with somebody offer. I want to show you, you can just glance at these on your way out. Would you just set them up against the thing? and I'll set one over here. These are two paintings that Zati did. Wow. And and so what she does is she has a small canvas made, and she takes an imprint of a of a whole. She does lots of different holy beings, and then she paints them. She just looks at the picture of the photograph, and she has all of her oil paints and her palettes, and then she paints them herself, like like following the colors. And then when she finishes them, she sends them to a place, and they can put them onto bigger or smaller canvases, like, and make prints. And listen, she said, I have no skill in art at all. And she said that one day while she was doing her Kuan Yin practice, I think it was, that the Dharma protector told her to do this, to make it. And so some of them she has made into tonkas, and she sends them off to a tonka place, and they put the brocade all around them and makes a tonka. And some these are all also available. And I was so encouraged when I saw them, because she painted those and then made her prints. So I just wanted to share too that I ordered while I was there to add to our space. So we're unlimited, and that's the Dharma wisdom coming. And the vidyas, he said, the vidyas, and I am really through. He said, the vidyas, we won't really train in them. They will just arise in us, and we will be shocked and amazed. So if we only think about what we think we've learned and that we can do, and we didn't learn this and we can't do that, he said, you will miss your brightness and what your great offering is to the world. No, by being locked into the limitations of your mind. So we have to be letting that all go, right? Thank you. Somebody please give.
May the merit from our practice today be truly dedicated and for the benefit of all of our parents in whichever way that liberates them. May we continuously in our body, speech, and mind put forth great effort to realize the emptiness of true existence and to continue practicing Buddha Dharma.